5, 6, 7, 8.
Friday. Yay, Friday.
Friday. Yay.
Friday. Remember that girl?
Yeah. Of course I remember Rebecca Black.
Rebecca Black.
Please.
Duh.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Gilmore to Say with Tara and Haley. I'm Tara. This is Haley. Hi, Haley.
Hi, Tara.
Happy almost Thanksgiving.
Happy almost Thanksgiving.
I'm so excited. I love the Thanksgiving holiday.
Week.
Yeah.
You know, I've been craving a Thanksgiving sandwich for like months now.
You
for some
love
reason.
Thanksgiving. Would you say that's your favorite holiday?
No.
Food-wise.
No.
Favorite holiday?
Food-wise, ooh. It's kind of a tie between Christmas Eve and Thanksgiving because
Yeah.
we make kind of like the same sort of meal.
Yeah, we do too.
Yeah.
We have like all of the same fixins. It's just like not the turkey.
Yeah.
We'll do like we'll do like a ham. Maybe we'll sometimes do like a chicken. We usually do roast beef.
okay.
My grandma's, as you know, you came and met my grandma.
Yes.
She loves to make roast beef.
What a darling.
I know. Love
She
her.
does because she wanted to make me roast beef, but I can't eat red meat. I'm allergic.
Yeah.
So that was sad.
I know.
I wanted
She
to
was a
eat
little
it
sad.
anyways just for,
Just for her heart.
just for her little heart, make her happy. No, but we have like almost the same one, but like in Christmas Eve, there's a Christmas tree, which is fun.
Well, that's also fun. Yeah.
But no, I do love Thanksgiving. It does remind me a little bit, completely wrong show, Blair Waldorf. That's her favorite holiday.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of Gossip Girl. Yeah.
Yeah. But
That's
the
Brett's favorite
Thanksgiving-
holiday.
Gossip Girl?
No.
Thanksgiving.
Brett's
Gossip
favorite
Girl
holiday
is my
is
favorite
Gossip
holiday.
Girl. Yeah.
Of course.
No, he loves Thanksgiving. It's his favorite holiday. And his favorite food to eat is gumbo because he's from Louisiana.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an
He makes
unusual one,
gumbo.
but that sounds good. I would
I
love to have
know.
gumbo on Thanksgiving.
And he makes a really good gumbo. I am very sad because we are not going to be able to spend Thanksgiving together this year. He is running an NFL event on Thanksgiving with his company. So I'm a little bummed because I wanted him to come up to my family's house for Thanksgiving. We're all going to be together, which we are never all together. Like, there's no guarantee
that's
we're
gonna be so
all
fun.
always together for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
It is going to be a lot of fun. What are you doing?
I'm maybe going to Florida to see my sister because she lives down there and like hang out with her kids.
Oh, Leo.
Like, I know, and Summy, and it just like I want to like I'm just so excited to like draw chalk. Like he loves for
Yeah.
you to draw fireworks.
I saw your
which, like,
picture. I saw your picture on
oddly,
Instagram.
yes.
Love it.
Oddly, I love drawing fireworks in chalk. Like that's like maybe one of my new hobbies.
Wow. I love
Like
that for
maybe I
you.
need to get some chalk because it's just like it's so soothing. But he's like more fireworks. So we just draw
like, okay.
fireworks.
All right.
Okay, I got it.
Sounds
got it
good.
down.
Aye,
So
aye.
I think that would be super fun because and then on Friday I'll make my Thanksgiving sandwich that I've been dreaming of.
Which is so funny because I think I mentioned this to you. I don't know if it was on pod or off, but Ross's Thanksgiving sandwich on Friends.
Yeah, you mentioned that to me. I haven't seen it, but I like would feel
You
the same.
gotta watch it. He has like a mental breakdown over it because the
'Cause someone
sandwich
takes it?
someone takes it from the fridge.
Yeah, I would also have mental breakdown.
Yeah, you
'cause,
have to watch
this is
that
all
episode.
I've wanted for so long.
Yeah. And Monica Geller made it, which like rumor has it on that show.
yeah.
She's a very good chef. I mean, she's
Yeah.
doing something right. It's her job.
Yeah.
So Ross is like, looks forward to that sandwich every year. And then he puts it in the fridge at work that says Ross's sandwich. Someone eats it. You have to watch the episode. It's just,
Okay.
it's peak Friends.
You know what I love about this opening of this episode is that like we have not mentioned the show.
We've not mentioned the show that we
That our
are here
podcast
to
is
talk
based
about. Yeah,
on.
we've talked about Friends. We've talked about Gossip Girl. We've talked about everything else but Gilmore Girls.
That's so Gilmore Girls though. Pop culture references.
Yeah, I know.
Relating it to other things.
Yeah.
That's the Gilmore Girls reference.
Hey, but speaking of Gilmore Girls, and all other TV shows for that matter, when we've recorded this, as of 12:01 this morning, the SAG strike is over, which is really exciting.
I know. And they got most of what they wanted. It wasn't like a perfect deal, but like they were calling it the $1 billion deal because that's kind of what this is worth for SAG, which is really exciting.
So amazing. And I'm just so proud of all of the people who were involved in it, all of the people who were on the picket lines. Y'all worked really hard for, what was it, 118 days?
118 days.
That is an insane amount of time to have to wait. We were bracing ourselves for it to be longer. I think we said on our most recent Patreon episode last week or possibly the week before that earlier this week we recorded it and we were like, no, it's not happening. The deal isn't happening. And then 2 days later, here we are.
Literally,
I'm
yeah.
so happy. I'm thrilled. It's very exciting. But what that also means is that we are going to resume our rewatch on Patreon. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited.
It's been a second. And to be honest with you, I haven't watched, outside of watching Gilmore Girls with Brett, I haven't really watched a lot of Gilmore Girls since then. And that was in July.
Yeah, I've been watching the revival, oddly. Like, I'll turn it on and, like,
Really?
in the background. Yeah, just kind of have it as, like, background noise.
Yeah.
While I'm, like, working. But I think it's the same thing. Like, I haven't watched anything in season 4 because
I've been
I wanted
preserving
to,
it.
Yeah, almost. I mean, I've seen this show.
Oh my God, a
times.
million
I know what
times.
happens,
Yeah.
but it's just, like, kind of like almost like was withholding it from myself so
Me
that when we
too.
made it there, it was, like, super, super exciting.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Because we ended on, like, a very good spot.
We
'Cause
did.
We ended at the end of season 3.
Yeah.
Those are Strings Pinocchio. Rory just graduated. Lorelai's getting, like, the in. And we'll see what happens.
I know. I'm so
what's gonna
excited.
unfold?
But I'm hoping that by the time we get there, I'm going to push for this. I'm really hoping by the time we get there, Brett and I will be there. And so we can watch the episodes together. Because I will say that Brett and I kind of debrief after every episode. And he has so many
guys have your own
interesting-
little podcast?
We do. I've like considered putting it on TikTok or Instagram Reels because I'm like,
No,
he
you
just,
should.
I really should. I should have like a
Yeah.
little honesty hour with Brett because
Yeah.
he just brings up some points that I like don't really think about. We just watched Dear Emily and Richard. That was the most recent one. And he was like, I don't get the DVD player. And I was like, oh, yeah. I mean, I think it's just kind of like an olive branch because she and her
Yeah.
mom like haven't, you know, in the flashbacks, they didn't have the same relationship that they do now. It's just kind of an example of how far they come. He was like, yeah, but why the DVD player?
Because she's just showing a thoughtfulness for her mom and the things she appreciates.
Totally. I just think it's so funny. We brought this up to Nancy when she was here in New York for dinner the night before our live show. And Nancy was like, you don't have to think too hard about it. It's just, she's like,
Yeah.
you know, she was
a
like,
gift.
it's just a gift. Yeah. And Brett was like,
just-
no, but I want to know why the DVD player. And it's just so
Because
funny.
it was 2002.
I don't
She
know.
couldn't get her
I
Netflix
think
subscription.
because he felt like so many of the flashbacks kind of like coincided with one another. He felt like that ending
Yeah.
was a little bit like she's reading the letter and like I guess he had wished for something a little bit more in tandem with that.
Yeah.
But all of this is to say, he just brings up things that like I don't really think about, you know?
Yeah.
I never thought about it too hard.
Yeah, you thought thinking about it too hard, bud.
That's
just a
exactly what
gift.
Nancy said.
It's an
Anyway.
olive branch in the form of a DVD player.
But
That
it
is
does bring
interesting.
something interesting to the table in that, like, obviously I have new thoughts all the time about the show. Us talking
Yeah,
about
same.
it on pod have new thoughts all the time. But when we're doing our
Love
rewatch, I
having new
notice
thoughts.
things that I maybe didn't notice before because I'm not watching
the
it with a discerning
time.
eye. I'm watching it more for comfort and for enjoyment. And not that there's no enjoyment in rewatching, but when we're talking
No,
about it,
yeah.
we're trying to get into the nitty gritty on Patreon. So to have another person besides you kind of share their perspective with me is very interesting. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that we
No,
can get
yeah.
there to kind of like watch it together because it's his first time watching it. So he picks up on things that maybe like I miss or
Yeah.
I haven't thought about too hard. And so I'm excited. I hope that we can get
Or
there.
he has only the perspective like of an adult watching this. So
Correct.
like you're like little like teenage heart that like lets things go.
Yeah.
He's kind of like a little bit more critical of it, which is interesting. And that relates back to our episode last week with Nava, where we were talking about how we watch it in like two different ways, which is like comforting from the perspective of a teenager and also like in this like discerning way that I feel like maybe he kind of falls somewhere in the middle because he doesn't
sure.
have that nostalgia to it.
Yeah,
So
totally.
that'd be really interesting to see, but I am very excited to get to 4. I will say what's really funny is that it took 118 days for this strike. And we are now starting season 4, and Brett has still not gotten there. He had so
Dude.
much time to catch up.
I love him so much, but he is not he's not a binger. He's not a binger.
Weird.
So like, and I can't relate to that. Like I start watching something and I move through it. Books, TV, movies, whatever. He always says that I'm so impatient. And yes, he's
Likes to
right.
savor it.
Because he likes to savor it a little bit more. But for me, I'm just like, no, I'm invested. I'm invested and I want to keep going. I don't know if other people are in that same camp where they prefer to savor and they kind of would
Yeah.
rather do like one episode at a time. But for me, I'm just like, nope. That's like when the Netflix
Yeah.
Are You Done Watching This comes up. I'm like, stop asking me.
Absolutely not.
I'll never be done.
But with Patreon, we slow down a little bit.
Yes,
we do it
which is
by
great.
week.
We do it week to week. And that kind of gives me the option to savor it. But no, he has not had any pep in his step moving towards rewatching this show. But I will light the fire a little bit. I will say we kind of approached the slow part of season 3 where it's like, it was like Lorelai out of water and, that'll do pig and stuff. So good. But, the excitement of they shoot Gilmores, don't they? Let the games begin, deep fried Korean Thanksgiving, like that climax has happened. So now we're kind of on a little bit of like we've kind of plateaued a little bit. And now we're about to approach Rory getting into college and all of the drama that surrounds that. And then the Jess drama. And I think we'll be on the train. We'll
get there. Yeah. And we're going to start, of course, with Ballrooms and Biscotti, which
I'm
we've
so
been dying
excited.
to.
Yes.
I'm most excited for the Lorelai's First Date AL, which is one of my favorite episodes of all time.
I cannot wait for him to get to that episode. I can't wait. Maybe we'll do a live watch of the Lorelai's First Date AL.
Because
for
I
our
love
Patreon
it
members.
so much.
We had
It's
such
so
a great
good.
time when we did that. We did that for season 3, episode 1. God, that feels like years ago.
It was years ago.
It was so long ago. But I think that our plan when we, when the wrench got thrown into the situation of the SAG strike, our plan was to do a live watch of the Lorelai's First Date Yell. So I think we'll probably do that.
Maybe we'll do that again.
Yeah. And I actually think that would fall somewhere around your birthday. So happy birthday, baby.
Yeah, it would. Oh my gosh, one of my favorite episodes for my birthday. What a dream.
What a dream. I love it. So anyway, we're really excited to be back at our rewatches. If you'd like to join us, visit patreon.com/Gilmore to say. So our first episode is actually going to be airing this Friday. It's Black Friday. And also make sure that you keep your eyes out on our Instagram for all of our Black Friday deals. I can't believe it's already Thanksgiving. I can't believe it's already Thanksgiving weekend.
It is crazy. The year's almost over.
I know, it's so wild. But anyway, speaking of Thanksgiving and, family and dinner, one of the episodes that we have been dying to do, and we're really excited to do it this week, is an episode about Friday night dinner.
Because what would this show be without Friday night dinner?
It would be nothing. The show would be nothing.
It's literally like the premise of the show is that Lorelai goes to Emily and Richard, of course, and asks for money. And she's like, yes, but you have to come to dinner every single Friday. And thus Friday night dinner was born. And my question for you about Friday night dinner is, do you think it's as big of a deal as Lorelai makes it out to be?
No, and we did just have this conversation with Eli at our live event that like all Emily wants is for her to come to dinner once a week, and that's the only stipulation.
Yeah, I think the other thing was to call her.
Yes.
But like Emily ends up calling anyways. So
yeah,
like that one
yeah. But no, I really don't think it's that big a deal. I mean, it definitely is it feels like work, right? I've made this comparison before. I made it on our first episode that when Dean asks Rory to get out of Friday night dinner, it's kind of like asking her to take a night off from work because technically they are doing something in exchange for money.
They are. Like,
so,
it's martinis and pot roast most of the time, but like...
Yeah, but, and I mean, like, we're talking, like, privileged work. Like, this is...
no, this is not...
really...
It's not hard.
No, it's really not a big deal. But it is an obligation. And
that's what I would
say.
It's not work, an obligation.
Yeah, and there's just an air to an obligation that just feels different than volunteering to do something or going over for pleasure. I do find it interesting that she like pretty consistently makes it a big deal, even when she's having fun. It's still one of those things where she's like, oh, I can't believe I still have to do this. And I'm like, but you're having a good time sometimes.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, do you feel like she should be more gracious about it? Because, like, I mean, it's not work. It is an obligation because, like, this is the deal that they've made. And, like, she's giving them... Emily, and Richard, they're giving her tons of money to send her daughter to school.
Yeah.
Because she can't afford it on her own. And it's like, she's acting like this is like the worst thing ever. And I do totally understand like the emotional implications of returning to this. But it's like.
Yeah. But at the same time.
So much money.
It's 2 hours a week.
Yeah.
That's it.
Martinis.
And I get it. It's on a Friday night. But like you get free food and free drinks. And all you have to do is sit there with
home.
Your parents. Also, yes. But you just have to sit there with your parents. And like you said, there are emotional implications to that and ramifications that like she has to now put herself back in a situation that she has told the audience was very unpleasant for her. But I really don't think it's that big a deal.
No, but do you think the first one set her off, like, for this to,
Oh
like,
my
not,
God.
like, because the first one did
Bad,
not
bad,
go
bad,
well.
bad. Yes. I mean, I think she already went in dreading it. She was already having a fight with Rory, but then she walks into this situation that is so familiar to her and not
Yeah.
good.
Because
And
they're already kind of attacking her.
they really are. And I know we're going to get into our rankings of
Yeah.
our Friday night dinners. This one, honestly, I wrote my least favorite of season 1 was probably the pilot. And
Really?
yeah, I mean, I think that I could make arguments for a lot of the season 1 Friday night dinners because I think that they were still trying to find their footing. But I just hate the way that Richard talks about her with her sitting right there.
Yeah.
I hate the way that he talks about Christopher so highly. And this was before Christopher's character was even remotely fleshed out. And she's sitting right there. It's just so offensive. You know, it's filled to the brim with a lot of conflict, which I know you love.
Yeah,
And it sets
it's
us
good
up.
drama.
It sets
Yeah.
us up for everything that we need to know moving forward. It gets us invested in these characters. But yeah, that first one, I would never want to come back after that. You joking?
Yeah, and so it's kind of like puts her rather in this like state of like that's how they're always going to be, because she has a really hard time changing her mind when it comes to her parents. Like even if she's been to like 100 of them at this point, it's kind of like she doesn't care. Like that first one is still like the taste in her mouth because things tend to go wrong. But like I feel like that one's like a least favorite in like from like a Lorelai perspective, but also like a top fave just like in like the nostalgia of like the setup of it.
Yeah.
But it's bad.
I mean, it's brutal. I mean,
bad.
I could also say that I could make that argument for the first episode of season 2, the way that Richard speaks to Dean. I mean, like, Richard just really... Richard has a bad track record for the first episode of each season in Friday Night Dinner. Also, the way he speaks about Christopher and kind of about Lorelai in season 3, episode 1 at Friday Night Dinner, when she's like, "Hey, we're not together anymore."
You're so right. But he isn't in the first episode of 4.
No, that's
just
all
like
Emily.
That's just a hostage situation.
It really is. It really,
so
really
the first
is.
3 seasons, Richard's he's not doing so well, is he?
No, he doesn't. He loses a lot of points.
Yeah.
But yeah, I understand that it all needed to happen in order to, again, inform the audience why she was so hard pressed to go to these dinners. But I do have to agree that it's really not that bad of a deal, my love.
Yeah, it's really not. I mean, a lot of things go down at these dinners that
They do.
make them bad, but the dinner themselves, I kind of love. Like,
Oh my
I kind
God.
of,
Yeah.
I want like a Friday night dinner, not like the obligation of it, but I want that with like some weekly dinner with my family. Where like
Totally.
we have like a gourmet dinner and cocktails before. That just sounds fun.
I totally agree. I kind of used to do that. It wasn't Friday night, but when I was at home with my family during the pandemic, I was living with my grandma. My mom lived 5 minutes away. My aunt lived in the same town 10 minutes away. So I would anticipate most nights they would come over and we would all eat dinner, and then we would sit around the table and drink tea.
Have tea?
Yes.
Yes.
You were there. You had tea
That
with
was
us.
the best part. This is so unrelated, but like going to Tara's house and her aunt offering me tea, and she like set out like every single
every single
option.
tea. Yes.
And I think I went with like an orange spice one, and it was so good. And we
Yeah.
just sat at the table and chatted. It was that was what a dream.
Usually there's dessert and games
There was
at
no
tea.
games.
I know. Usually
There
we'll
was a lot of
play-
tea at tea though.
There was a lot of tea at the tea, but we
Yeah.
usually do like a little dessert. We'll have ice cream or cake or something, and then we'll just like sit
there
around
was
the table
fruit.
playing. Yeah,
was
that's right. We
watermelon.
did have fruit. And we'll play like card games or I had gotten a version of the Game of Life, but it was Marvelous Mrs. Maisel themed. And during the pandemic, we played that. So like we love to play a game. We'll play bananagrams. We'll play cards. Like that
Do you
is
imagine
what
if there
I
was
do.
a game on Friday night dinner, like bananagrams? They're playing charades.
They're playing charades.
They're playing the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel themed Game of Life.
That would be a crossover for
That's the crossover I would want.
that's the crossover I would want to see. But yeah, so I kind of had like it wasn't an obligation at all. I mean, it was
No.
honestly a saving grace, kept me sane during the pandemic.
Yeah.
But when I go home now, that is what I look forward to. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, tea and dinner and card games and dessert at some point, like
Yeah.
it's just, but mostly it's the community. Like I just love
Yeah.
sitting around the table and talking with my aunt, my grandma, and my mom. And
Yeah.
that is that was the vehicle for conversation with the Gilmore Girls, right? Was Friday night dinner. It was for Emily to become a prize.
Emily wanted.
Of course, that's what she wanted.
What you had. She wanted that, like, they are like looking forward to it. They have this community. Like, maybe at some point she thought that it was going to turn into like started cocktails and dinner, but it was going to turn into like cocktails, dinner, maybe coffee afterwards, and some games and chatting and just fun times. I really think she saw this vision in her mind of it playing out like your family. Yeah. That's not she was not being truthful to who she is.
No, definitely not. But I do love the moments that kind of like humanize Emily Gilmore, and those are some of my favorite ones at Friday night dinner. Like, I love in Love and War and Snow. I know that it wasn't an intentional Friday night dinner. Lorelai's not there, but I love when they make the frozen pizza.
That was one of my favorites.
Me too. I just love it. Well, let's get into it. So our rankings for each season, we did a top and a bottom. We haven't done a rankings episode in a while. I was so excited to do this because this is a classic Gilmore to Say rankings episode, which I love.
I will say I had a hard time with like the least favorite because it's like, it was like this back and forth of like, do I like not like what's going on, or is this bad for them and I'm enjoying it?
It's like, so what's the barometer, right? Like, how are we measuring out the least favorite? I have some thoughts and we can talk about them. But what was what was your favorite Friday night dinner from season 1?
My favorite, like, this is like, is it a favorite or is it a least favorite? Because I really loved the one from Love and War and Snow when Rory makes frozen pizza for them. Too. Like, that's just so cute, and they show the pictures. But I picked well, it's not Christopher Returns, because Christopher doesn't return in Christopher Returns. He returns at the end. Mm-hmm. No. He returns at the end of Donna Reed. Is that right?
Yes.
So the one in Christopher Returns, when Strobe and Francine are there. Because, like, this is, like, I think in terms of drama, this one is more dramatic than Friday Night's All Right for Fighting. Like, because the things that happen at Friday Night's All Right for Fighting is, like, the way that it's filmed, the way that they're shouting at each other. But, like, the amount of shit that goes down at the Christopher Returns one of like his parents being there, them having sex on the balcony, Emily in the kitchen, like her having that conversation with Rory, like everything that's going down on that dinner is insane.
Yeah,
like
totally.
The amount of stuff that happens. And so I just like, it's like not a good one. This is bad.
The content, Princeton. Like the words, the sentiment is bad. The drama is great.
So good.
Yeah. Alternately, I put Star-Crossed Lovers and Other Strangers as one of my favorite Friday night dinners because
you love Chase Bradford.
Man, we're gonna get to that in a little bit, but Chase Bradford, no notes, shall we? I just love the shall we?
What a gem. And the thank you, Daddy, when she sneaks out.
And I just love that moment with Richard and Lorelai. I love that he comes upstairs and she looks at him and she's like, listen, I know we had a fight last week, but please do not make me go downstairs and date that man. This is a setup. Yeah. And he was also put off by the setup. Like, I also love the way that she walks in and he's reading the paper and she's trying to talk to him and he's like, oh God, what have you done now? When she like knocks over the figurines. Like, I just love it. I love that she's so nervous because the drama the week before was hot, piping
spicy.
Hot. So to watch her walk into that situation and he just is acting so unfazed, even though they had words. And then to see where they end by the end of that night with him letting her climb out the window, which is something that she used to do right under his nose and he probably didn't notice or didn't care or whatever it may be. To let her do that, I just thought was such a beautiful moment between the two of them.
Yeah. No, that's so good. I think that that's like one of the hard ones because I like put that in my bottom simply because like Rory wasn't there and Chase Bradford is so yucky, but in the most delicious in the best way. So like that's what's hard is like I love that one.
Yeah.
But I'm also like that's so bad. But in a good way.
Totally.
So like that's why I'm like having a hard time with like least and best.
I know. It's like, what's the criteria? Yeah, totally. I also, some of those early Friday night dinners for me weren't bad necessarily. They were just a little, they were still figuring out their footing.
Yeah. I think Kill Me Now is one of them that just feels weird.
Yeah. But it is trying to set up the story because with Kill Me Now, like it depends on which one you are referring to, because the one in the earlier part of the episode, they're chatting and it's very uncomfortable and Emily's kind of forcing Rory and Richard to spend time together. But at the end, it's uncomfortable for Lorelai because she was really thinking that Rory wouldn't enjoy herself, and she did, and Emily's all smug. And I'm like, ugh, Emily, wipe that look off your face.
Exactly. But another, like, I guess, like, honorable mention is Gran.
Oh, of course. The third
Like,
Lorelai.
I feel like those are always the, like, honorable mention, because, like, we'll talk about guests, but, like, I think that she's, like, every time she's there, I'm like, I love what it does to Emily.
I know.
It's bad.
It's bad, but God, is it good.
But God is a good.
I know. I love it.
And God is a woman.
God is a woman. Honestly, that is one of my favorite intro bits. God.
Yeah.
God lives in London. My mother lives in London. Your mother is God. So God is a woman. I just love
And a
that.
relative.
And a relative. That's so cool. I'm going to totally ask for favors. Like, I love the bits at the beginning of those Friday night dinners. They're very fun. But they're still like figuring it out, you know?
Yeah.
It's very Friday night dinner heavy season 1 because they're trying to establish those relationships. So I do appreciate a lot of those moments. But I did put my least favorite was the one in the pilot, just because I just don't love the way that it's so uncozy, and it puts into perspective why Lorelai doesn't want to be there, and that was the entire purpose of it being so tense, right?
Yeah.
But like
so tense.
I don't know. I just don't. It doesn't set up Richard well for me.
It doesn't.
Doesn't put
he
him in a
seems like
positive
a
light.
monster.
Yeah, I'm glad he softens as the show goes on, and I think that's
everyone kind of softens as we get into season 1. But yeah, you're right. That did not set him up well.
Yeah, did not feel good and cozy. But moving on to season 2, what did you put for your favorite?
My favorite was tied between it should have been Lorelai yelling, like when they're yelling in the kitchen, that it should have been Lorelai, which is the title, where that comes from. That's the one where Sherry comes and Rory doesn't come to dinner, so she brings Chris instead. Yikes. But also the road trip to Harvard, the end of it, when they're showing the slideshow, I also really love that one.
I put that in my top as well.
It's so cute.
It's so good. I love when they're looking at the slides. And then I think Emily's hair looks absolutely superb. And she got it done because Lorelai is supposed to be getting married that weekend. And she's like, oops, forgot to tell you, I'm not getting married. And then she won't tell her what she got her for a wedding gift. And they end the episode with Lorelai following her around the house. And she's like, what'd you get me? And she's like, stop it.
And Rory just pulls her book out.
I love it. I think it's so cute. It's a perfect kind of button on the end of what we call like the precursor to, what do we call that?
Yeah.
Like
The prequel.
The prequel. Not so much a prequel.
The prologue.
The prologue. Thank you. I was like, it's a P word. It's a PR word.
It's a P word. We got there.
We got there.
We have one brain.
Eventually. Yes, we do. But you know what I also put, which probably doesn't count? I put there's the rub. Because the thing is, it's not a Friday night dinner, but it was a Friday night. It was a Friday night and they ate dinner. I love Emily and Lorelai at the bar eating the steaks at the 60/40 Club.
We still need to do that.
We do. We were planning on doing that in Denver.
Yeah.
And we did sit at the bar when we did when we were at the Mayflower Inn, which, by the way,
That's fair.
if any of you go through Connecticut, you have to go to the Mayflower Inn.
It was incredible. We talk about it on Patreon.
Yes.
But like the Mayflower Inn is where Amy pinned the first scene of Gilmore Girls. And she was staying there when she went to the Mark Twain's house. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
And like got inspired by Washington Depot. But like they've, I guess, renovated it since 2020 and it is gorgeous. Everyone is so
stunning.
nice there.
They're so kind and they love a Gilmore Girls fan.
Yeah.
Cannot recommend it enough. So definitely go there.
But we
But
did sit at the bar, but
we did sit at the bar. We had mocktails. It was lovely. But we didn't get steaks. But you're not going to get a steak anyway.
I wouldn't get a steak.
Yeah.
We could get something else.
That's true.
Fish?
That's true. Yeah, maybe fish. But also, alternatively, Rory ends up having Friday night dinner with Paris and Jess. And
oh my
so
gosh, I never thought about that.
I just think that, like, even though it's not a Friday night dinner, I'm kind of like, I obviously
It's Friday night. They're
love
eating
that
dinner.
episode. It's Friday night and they're eating dinner. And we know where every single one of them is. So
I would call the Emily and Lorelai one, I would classify that. This is like the obligation. This is like part of it. Rory is not there, but that's okay because like this was the setup. But I just love that Emily's eating peanuts for some reason with her hands.
Yeah, I know.
Something about that just like...
It's a little primal for Emily Gilmore. I love it.
I love that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they have martinis. So
That's
there's
true.
a cocktail element.
Absolutely.
Totally a Friday night dinner.
There's drama. Totally a Friday night dinner.
So much drama.
I love it. I do.
Yeah.
But I also put the road trip to Harvard. And then in my least faves, it's conflict. So I know that it's like, this is my criteria, is like which conflict made me feel kind of like the ickiest.
Yeah.
And it's understandable, but it's in Hammers and Veils.
Yeah.
It's that Friday night dinner where Emily and Lorelai are sitting at the table by themselves because Richard has gone off with Rory to give her a book because he's trying to make up for what had happened in the episode
the
prior.
Dean dinner.
And Lorelai tells Emily that she's engaged. And Emily's like, well, that's nice. We'll try to make it if we're in town. But if not, we'll send a nice gift. And it's like,
yeah.
what? So that conflict always makes me feel so uncomfy because like Richard is trying to make it up to Rory. Lorelai is trying to like olive branch with her mom and be like, hey, I'm getting married. And she was so excited to put herself out there. And her mom shuts her down.
Yeah.
And I understand why she shut her down because she didn't tell her. But
and she found it from Suki.
That sucks.
Yeah. That was a very bad one. I kind of I kind of like it, but it's like it's in that same way of like it is the bottom because it makes me feel uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. In the same way that like the Dean Friday night dinner when he comes, that totally. Also feels that way because it's like it's so good. It's like such good conflict, but like that also makes me feel uncomfortable for Dean, which like we never sympathize with Dean, but this episode
did feel definitely. Like that one was rough. I also don't love when Lorelai comes over. This is in the Ins and Outs of Ins, and Emily is presenting to them the painting, the portrait of Rory in the study with the book.
Yeah.
And she's so proud of it because she made an adjustment earlier in the episode by losing the swan. And it was Lorelai's suggestion. Yeah. And Lorelai has just had a fight with Suki and she's all put out because Mia is selling the inn, and she comes in and is just like so rude to her mom, and then they have this conversation in the kitchen. And I do appreciate that Lorelai apologizes to her and owns up to why she is feeling the way she is. It's a beautiful mother-daughter moment for them to have that experience together and for Emily to go, I have bad days too. But it also hits Emily, like it overwhelms her that Mia is in town. And so that one, I don't know where I would place that, but I just don't love the way that Lorelai speaks to her mom. And I also don't love the dialogue that's written there. Like,
yeah, I remember you saying that.
It's a little forced.
Rewatch.
Yeah. So that one I think also goes into my least faves.
The only other one I'll add is when Lorelai calls and accepts Max's proposal.
I was thinking about the same thing. And and she and Rory start like dancing or like screaming. And they're like,
yeah. I understand that he called and he proposed over the phone.
Yeah.
But for her to call and accept over the phone, like just sneak out during cocktails during like Friday night dinner.
Yeah. And then they come back and they start jumping and screaming. And it's like, stop it.
Yeah. And like, they're like, what's going on? And they're like, nothing.
We're just really happy. And I'm like, okay. I hate when people do that in general in life.
Yeah.
I don't love when people get all excited and they're like, nothing. No, we're fine. Nothing's wrong.
You. Hee hee ha ha.
Hee hee ha. I'm like,
no, don't like it. And the way that Leah would say, like, don't like it.
Don't like it. Exactly.
Don't like it.
So then moving on to season 3. I mean, there are so many to choose from.
So many.
There are so many to choose from. Up there for me is Haunted Leg. I mean,
yes, that was what I put. Number 1.
When Chris shows up, first of all, let's even talk about before Chris shows up. I love the maid. Oh, Big Bell. So
the little bell is the oven.
Yes, Sarah. She goes to put the salads down. Oh, Big Bell. And then she leaves to go answer the door, and Chris comes in. The conflict
and where
there.
Where do salads go?
I have no idea. Who's to say? But then something's burning at the end. It's probably the salads. She probably put them in the oven. Little Belle.
Of course.
Sarah is hilarious. The way that Emily is trying to be so patient with her because Richard made a crack about her not being able to keep a maid. Hilarious. Then, Lorelai also thinks it's hilarious. All of a sudden, Chris comes in because they've broken this tension, right? At the beginning of the episode, Emily is upset with her for walking out on Friday night dinner in the last episode when she told her parents that she and Chris are no longer together. And that's when she goes, Shauna Christie shot her. Oh, yes, she did. She did. You're right. Because she's like.
So she's She's mad about walking out. She's mad because Lorelai also walked out at lunch.
Yes, she keeps leaving. But also in that Friday night dinner intro, the cold open in Haunted Leg, she's like, Shauna Christie shot her husband. And I also love that. That's so funny.
She had a husband to shoot.
Exactly. Classic Emily Gilmore snark. But when they do eventually make it to this dinner, it's the Sarah and the maid and Emily trying to be so patient with her. Then Chris walks in. Lorelai's like, did you do this? I did not do this. And then they start fighting. Rory gets involved. She runs upstairs. She and Chris have
someone
this.
else's dad.
Oh my God. They have this, like this very, very heated, very passionate argument where, Lorelai says, are you going to marry her? And he says, yes. Then, honey, we are where we are. Accept it. And Emily comes in. She's like, Christopher, you need to leave. Ooh, it's so good. It's so
the way she says Christopher.
Oh. I love that she says, you need a mask and a horse when you say that.
Yeah. And that's really what it feels like. It just feels like this moment of like, she knows she did something wrong and she is coming in to fix it. Yeah. Get out of here. She finally sees what Lorelai has been trying to tell her. And it just, Emily Gilmore in that moment. Yes. And so that's why I love that one.
Big yes. Me too.
Yeah.
But I also put, and a lot of people put this in our question box when we ask people their favorite Friday night dinners. And this is my favorite cold open.
Yeah.
Is the beginning of Happy Birthday Baby.
Yeah. Big Friday night dinner episode.
Yes. The other Friday night dinner actually made it into my least faves.
Yeah, not so good.
Not so great. But the cold open is when first of all, let's take Rory out of it for a second because I do love that part. But I also love the Johnny Machete of it all. I love that Richard is very excited to give them this dish that he used to eat as a kid. Emily's absolutely disgusted by it. It's like, this is again one of those things for me that humanizes Emily Gilmore, is that like she eats it and she's like, I'm taking approximately 3 bites of this and then I'm throwing it away. Yeah. But it's kind of like the frozen pizza in season 1. She's like, pass the Johnny Machete, please. And I don't know if she's really doing that because she wants to avoid the conversation and avoid being excited about Rory sharing that she's going to Yale. But I love how excited.
We've talked about that before. The way that Emily will like not like a food that she's eating until the conflict is kind of resolved. Like she does that in season 6 when she doesn't like the raspberries, and then like Rory kind of helps her out with the like problem that she's going on, and she's like, I love raspberries. And so it's like, I don't like Johnny Machete, and then Rory's going to Yale and she's like, I love this. So it's like very Emily Gilmore of her to not be into it until something good is told to her at dinner.
That's true. She does that with a lot of things. She also does that in Let the Games Begin when Richard takes Rory in to meet that guy from Yale. And all of a sudden she starts complimenting the skirt and how Lorelai fixing the skirt was like very helpful. She's like, my skirt is really lovely.
Oh, Emily.
So it's classic Emily Gilmore. Oh, Em. But yeah, I love that cold open. Richard is so excited about sharing this dish that looks absolutely unappetizing. Emily is like trying to scarf it down because she doesn't want to be excited about the fact that Rory is going to Yale. That's when they share this information. She's going to Yale. She's going to Yale. It's just, I love it. It's so good. So one of my faves. What were your faves?
Well, I didn't put that one simply because it felt like that one and then Friday Night's All Right for Fighting were like, those are like the best ones.
Very popular.
So I tried to like steer away from them just because like everyone loves those. So Haunted Leg was definitely one, but another Emily Lorelai one that I love, because I feel like all of these ones that we've picked are kind of Emily Lorelai episodes that we love.
Yeah.
Is 8 O'Clock at the Oasis, which I don't love that episode as a whole, but I do love the sprinkler scene, and I love when Lorelai and Emily are talking in the kitchen. The sprinkler scene, not at Friday night dinner. There's no sprinklers at Friday night dinner. But it's the John Hamm date, Peyton. And she's like kind of apologizing to her. And she's like, this was horrible. I can't do this. And then she kind of accidentally agrees to go. And Emily's just like, thank you. So I love that. I don't know. There's something about their interactions when they go in the kitchen that I love a lot. So it's like Haunted Leg, that one, and 8 O'Clock. And then, of course, Happy Birthday Baby.
So good.
The beginning, the first one.
Yeah, well, the second one, when she gives her parents the check, that's one of my least faves.
Same.
Yeah. I just, we talk about this on Patreon. I don't agree with, like, I'm so torn about her giving them that money in that context. I understand why she thought that was a good idea to give them the money. It's just on that day, probably not the best. You're having a
Not on her
celebration.
birthday. Yeah.
Yeah, it just kind of really ruined the vibe. And we had, you posed this question to me, like, did you think that Emily ever really wanted her to pay them back?
Yeah.
And the answer is no. I don't think she ever really wanted that. But she also knows her daughter. I mean, case in point, Secrets and Loans. That's also a very uncomfortable Friday night dinner in season 2. I forgot about that one. Because Rory hijacks it and is like, yeah, we have an infestation problem, and she and Lorelai get into a huge fight. But in Secrets and Loans, she's very, very blunt that she pays back all of her debts. That is something she feels very passionately about. And
then we never see her ever pay off that loan.
Correct. Well, again, that's why that episode is just so isolated.
Yeah.
No plot, just vibes. And so I feel like when it comes to this money, of course Emily never wanted it back.
Yeah.
But Lorelai, she knew Lorelai was like hell-bent on paying it back. But maybe she just figured that she'd never have the means to pay it back. I know that sounds mean, but like,
no,
she might have assumed that Lorelai never really had the means to pay it back.
It just, that makes sense. But on the other side of it is like, why would Lorelai think that like that's the right thing to do?
Exactly.
For her mom? Because Emily knows Lorelai and knows that she would want to pay her back. But why would Lorelai then be like, it's my birthday, here is all the money that I owe you? Yeah. And it's weird, but like the other weird part of it is that Richard is like, I told you not to tell your mom, and you're like, no, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
And
totally
so,
did not.
That's another layer of it, because we talked really in depth about this on Patreon, because it was like her dad now knows she has the money and the means to pay them back. And like, if someone gives you money and you owe them money, you kind of want to turn around and be like, oh, here's the money that you lent me before. Yeah. And so like, there's that level of it that like, it feels like she's kind of giving it to Richard. But like, why would she not, like, when he gave it to her, be like, oh, just keep it. Is that money that you owe me? Like,
that's
that
true.
I owe you, rather.
That's true.
So it just uncomfy decisions all around.
All around.
And Rory's just sitting there like, I'm the benefactor of all of this.
I know. But she does say to her mom, like, why did you do that? Why would you do that? And she's like, I owed them money. That. I'm going to pay them back. And I get where she's coming from, but it's just like, babe, read the room.
Read the room. You've been in this room many times. You're very familiar.
You're familiar with the room.
At this point.
Read it. Yeah. Exactly. So that probably takes the cake for my, no pun intended, for my least favorite.
Yeah. Oh my
Friday
gosh, the
dinner.
cake. The birthday cake.
But moving into season 4, I could not really think of a Friday night dinner that stood out to me. And it's interesting because I've been, like we talked about at the beginning of this episode, I've been reserving season 4 for our rewatch. So I haven't watched it in a minute. And subsequently, I'm like, what is my favorite Friday night dinner of season 4? And I feel like I'll have a better answer after we watch it, but I'm curious what yours is.
Okay. I have 2. The first one, well, like my least favorite kind of coincides with my most favorite, but I love the one when Jason's parents come and Jason is there and Lorelai is like all dressed up and everyone was like,
beautiful.
You look great.
Yeah, you look
and,
so
like,
nice.
Like, what's going on? Like, that's kind of like the joke there. But like, I love the drama of that because they like think that they're going to tell
Ooh, so good.
about their relationship and it ends up that they're going to sue or like that they were getting sued and now Jason's dad, whose name is Floyd Stiles, is like acquiring the company and they're pushing Jason out and like this all is unfolding and Floyd has a private detective following them, so he knew about it and Emily and Richard find out about it. It's just so
good. So
tick,
good.
Tick, 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 boom.
Yes.
Is the episode, but I love that.
Great episode.
But I also really love Ballrooms and Biscotti when Rory's being held hostage.
I know. It's a great one.
Dancing.
It really is. It's one of those ones that teeters on like, is that my favorite or my least favorite? Because it gives me a lot of anxiety, that episode. Well, because just like, the dinner. She has to go pack. I'm like, she needs to go pack. She needs to like get back there. Lorelai needs her to be home. It gives me anxiety because I also don't like feeling trapped in situations. So that was one that I didn't really know where to put it. I also
love that Lorelai came and like was there just laying on the couch.
I know. So funny. But one of those that also kind of is like on the seesaw of fave, least fave is the incredible sinking Lorelai's. When Trix comes.
Yeah.
And she tells her she needs a haircut. And it's like, yeah, man, I know I need a haircut.
How many dinners have you been to where there's a family member who's like, you should probably fix that.
She needs a haircut. And
Yeah.
she basically says to Lorelai, like, you're hemorrhaging money.
Yeah.
And then she
kind of
turns
blames
to
it on
Richard, and that's
Yeah.
the last fight that they have. That's basically their last conversation.
Yeah.
And then she dies.
I forgot
So
that.
it is equal parts like least fave because of like those undertones. But I also just love when Emily jumps in. She's like, you paid back that loan right away. She loves sticking it to Gran. She loves it. She loves nothing
Yeah.
more than sticking it to Gran. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
And
So,
it's not a Friday night dinner, but when is that in 3 when she points at her and she was like, she was kissing a man in a tracksuit. Is that
my
in 3 or
God.
4?
Oh my God.
Because it wasn't Friday night dinner, but she was like,
I saw
with
her
her
kissing a man
pals.
in a tracksuit. Oh my God.
but
you're
she like the
totally
way
right.
that she points at
Emily.
her.
Oh, you're
I think
right.
it's in 4.
I think it might be in 4 too because
Um,
Emily shows up and she goes, I can't go home.
it wasn't in 3, so I think it's in 4 because Grant is no more in 5.
Oh my God, you're totally
But-
right. That's a good one too.
But my least favorite is but also my favorite is Jason is showing Emily and Richard the internet.
Yes, and the
Wi-Fi.
cheeseburger.
And the cheeseburger.
I wrote that one
and
down too.
He weasels his way into dinner. And then they're talking about the article that Rory wrote, which was horrible. And they're like, this article is great. And Jason's like, I want to read it. And he's like asking Lorelai on a date across the table, like
Yes.
very surreptitiously, to quote the word that I learned from Wicked. So it just like they're being really coy and it's cute, but at the same time I'm like, I don't know about this one.
I know. Yeah. It's, again, a lot of season 4's Friday Night Dinners, which is why I had a tough time ranking them, kind of sit on, like I said, a little bit of a seesaw. It's like it's simultaneously my fave and my least fave. I do agree with you that Tick, 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 Boom is gorgeous.
So good.
No notes.
Just like the drama level, the reveal.
But
That's
the
what you need from the Friday
anticipation
night
of it is
dinner.
also a little like uncomfy.
Yeah.
But you know, some of the dinners at the end of season 4 also get a little uncomfy because you can tell that there is conflict with Emily and Richard. Like when Lorelai and
Yeah.
Rory show up and no one's there for dinner. And they're all out of sorts because Emily is returning home. She has like dry cleaning, or maybe she brings
Yeah.
the dry cleaning into the car, but she basically is living at a hotel. And
Yeah.
which is so interesting to me because in my head, I'm like, if anybody's living in a hotel, it's Richard Gilmore. Emily's kicking his ass out of this house, which eventually
Yeah.
kind of happens because they go to the pool house because like she makes him go to the pool house. But speaking of, my favorite Friday night dinner of season 5 is when Emily takes the girls into the pool house and is looking for things.
And they find his vest.
They find the sparkly vest.
Is that what it is, or is it a jacket? I think it's a vest.
No, it's a vest.
Yeah.
She wants to know what he's doing. And they eventually find out that it's a barbershop quartet. But I
Yeah.
love when she takes them into that pool house. And then they find like the alcohol and they're looking
Yeah, 'cause
for
that's
because
what
they're
they
looking
went
for
looking
gin.
for.
They went looking
Yeah.
for gin, right? And they said check the bathtub. Which I love.
Of course.
Yeah.
No, I love all of those Friday night dinners where they're like split. Because like in a good way, but like in a bad way, one of my least favorites, or I guess like I put it as my least favorite, is when they split up.
Emily says
and they
hello.
Yeah, and they split up and they're trying to like in like the best way possible, like make it work.
Yeah.
But Lorelai made it worse, and Rory and Richard rather had a frozen pizza once again.
Yeah, we love a frozen pizza moment. But I just
Yeah.
love when Lorelai and Rory come together at the end. And she's like, I had a great time with Grandpa. How'd it go with Grandma? And she's basically like, Grandma said that she wants to date men and wants to say hello because Grandpa wouldn't butter her roll.
See, it's like it's good, like it like ends good, but like
Yeah.
like the concept of it is like at my lower end. But like, oh, maybe it's not because
It's
I love
so
that so
funny.
much.
I just love it. I love how optimistic Rory is. I made some really good breakthroughs with Grandpa. How did it go with Grandma? She doesn't want to be with him. She wants to date other men, and he wouldn't butter her roll. I just
Yeah.
think that is so funny. So yeah, I understand that it's also one of those.
I'd say part 1 lower, part 2 when they come back together top. I don't know.
I love it. I think it's so fun.
Because I think that's something maybe we should have laid out in the beginning is like what makes a good Friday night
Yeah,
dinner.
I know.
Because like as I'm going this, like maybe it's that it's like lacking in that like real drama because like I like the Emily side of it, but like because now that I'm looking at like the ones that I picked, like they don't feel quite right because like my top one that I put was in Come Home when Emily and Lorelai, not Emily and Lorelai, Rory rather, and Lorelai arrive and they're getting back together.
I was thinking of that as well, but I also was like, I don't know, that one for me isn't like top tier. You know,
Yeah.
I do like the surprise of it all that they are
Yeah.
like, oh, what are they doing? Are they fighting? Oh my God, she's picking up a dish. Do you think she's going to throw it at them? Like, it's just, and then she starts cackling. She's like, oh, is that like a maniacal laugh? Is she about to hit him with the dish? You know,
Yeah.
and then they start making out and they're like, oh my God, you know, so it is fun. It's funny. And then they're like, what are you doing? Get in here, you silly gooses. We're getting married again. You know, we're going to renew our vows. So like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I get that there's some fun, silly, happy, haha, fun times.
Yeah. Another top, which is not silly haha fun times, is the Yale Mail Party because Lorelai and Luke are having dinner. She's like, I don't remember what it's like to not have a Friday night dinner. And here's Rory not doing so great until Mr. Huntsberger arrives.
The Mail Yale Party is pretty top tier. And technically a Friday night dinner. You're right. I didn't think about that because I wasn't thinking of it being a dinner.
Yeah. Because the party's over.
Yes, of course.
This is the episode after we jump by Jump Jack.
Oh, you're right. So good. So good.
Because they're both having dinner. Rory seems to have less dinner because Luke is making a feast.
Yes. Correct.
Love that one.
Oh, such a good one. I will say that one of my least faves is probably the finale of season 5.
Can we even call it dinner? Oh my gosh.
That's the thing though, is like,
the
is it
expectation.
dinner? Yeah, it's her coming in.
Oh man.
Them standing
so
there.
So good though.
Really good. So that's the thing. What's the criteria for what makes a good Friday night dinner?
Do they have to eat dinner or is it like, are we having drama for dinner?
I mean,
Calorie
they
free.
are definitely having drama for dinner, but I just, I hate that scene so much. Like, it's so well done, but it makes my heart so sad because just the image of like the zoom in of her listening to the two of them in her purple shrug and her going through like the motions of, we sat there, I said this, you said this. And what happened to that? And then she goes outside and Rory is putting her stuff in the pool house and they just stare at each other through the window.
And is it I Think It's Gonna Rain is playing? Is that the song that it is?
Yeah.
So good. But what a good like reference, because that's the one that sets up Friday Night's All Right for Fighting. And like when she
when she
like
reenacts
recreates it.
Yeah, totally.
It's like a precursor to that. But that is good. Like so like such a good drama, like such good happenings, if you will. But it's bad.
It's hard to watch. It's hard to watch for me.
Yeah.
But I will say the one that takes the cake for the least favorite Friday night dinner of season 5 for me, we talked about this on Gilmore to Consider with Logan, is How Many Crow Pogs to Cape Cod. I don't love the drama. I think the drama's kind of weird. Because even if this is a tradition of his that he does where he takes the sewing kit and he replaces it with something else from another rich person's house, why are you doing that at your girlfriend's place?
I don't think he would do that there.
Yeah.
I think he'd be like so like worried about impressing them that he wouldn't do that.
Yeah, but it
that's
seems
just
like
me
he
loving
comes
Logan.
in already feeling like he's impressed them.
Yeah.
So-
Feeling like the confidence, he has the gifts. It's just not good.
No.
And like the Lorelai part of it is weird too.
So uncomfy, and I don't love the way that Rory doesn't really, like, because Logan is there, doesn't really step in for Lorelai.
No.
And, you know.
She's the bridge and she just doesn't
Yeah,
do
the bridge has
anything.
collapsed. And this is even before everything happens at the end of season 5. So,
Yeah.
like, you know, it just, and I don't like the way that Emily is speaking to Lorelai. Like, it just all feels very, like, Lorelai is so ostracized here,
Yeah.
but in such an uncomfortable way, and in a way that doesn't fit her relationship with Rory.
Yeah.
You
or
know?
like, I mean, the Emily part of it makes sense because that's like when she like thinks she's making her a sidecar and she's like a Jen Martini, and I think she puts an onion, or Richard puts an onion in it or something like that. But it's weird conflict. I didn't want to put it because of just like my allegiance to Logan. I like couldn't do it, but it like is one of the worst ones.
Yeah,
for sure. Just because
it's kind of rough.
It's not any good.
It's not it.
Can I say on the flip side, in the next episode, blame Booze and Melville, when they're picking out the dancer cards and doing fondue because Emily got them the fondue that night. Can I give like a little flip, like ending that one on a good note? Because that one's really fun.
Yes, I do love that. Do they also do fondue after Friday Night's All Right for Fighting?
In the one immediately after that? You've Been Gilmore, that's I put that as one of my like tops on 6 just because of like when she like counts down to like restart. I don't think that they're eating fondue. I think they're just having regular dinner.
Okay.
I think that maybe you're thinking of spaghetti and meatballs.
I'm thinking of the fondue, but I didn't realize that was after. Isn't that when she's like, this is so decadent? Isn't this decadent?
It's in that episode. It's in Blame Booze and Melville.
Yeah. I love that. I love that intro. That's very fun. I put that down as one of my favorite desserts.
Yeah.
Like food served.
But I love the conversation that's happening over the dancers because Emily like seeing the guy who's like very well endowed and she's like, put him in the maybe pile. and Royce is like, you go, Grandma.
Yeah, I know. I love that.
It's kind of uncomfy, but at the same time, I just love like Emily's reaction to it.
Yeah.
But very cute.
Totally.
And if I can juxtapose that against uncomfy Logan.
Totally. But moving on to season 6, I think obviously classic fave across the board. Friday Night's All Right for Fighting. I mean, like that's the pinnacle of Friday night dinners.
Which is what's so funny because like we put on our story, we were like, oh, we should ask everyone what their favorite Friday night dinner is. And then like 2 seconds later, we were like, no, we shouldn't have because everyone's going to say Friday Night's All Right for Fighting. And
they
like,
did.
Half of me wants to like read all of the ways that people described this episode.
Oh my God. It
like,
was so
hilarious.
Funny. It was so funny.
It's like the one with all the camera angles, the one where they're all yelling, the one where they get, they're all yelling at each other and they get wasted and they're having a fun time.
Yeah. Someone said the one where they all crack. I was like, yep.
Exactly.
Accurate.
That's the one.
No,
or the one where they're reenacting everything. Like,
the way that people were describing it. But of course, a lot of people said Friday Night's All Right for Fighting. But it was just so funny to read the way that people were describing it. So good. But it was across the board one of the most popular ones that people answered with, and understandably so. It's a great episode. It's
good.
I mean, like the Friday night dinners to end all Friday night dinners.
Yeah.
Because after that, you've mentioned this a lot. After that is kind of when there's not a lot of drama.
The drama kind of stops.
Yeah, because it all came to a head.
Yeah.
And now they
didn't resolve everything, but they all came to like a neutral place with it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's got everything. It's got dinner. It's got
Friday
yelling
night
at each other. It's got Friday night. It's got a little bit of resolution, but then it's got them, I think what Emily always wanted, for them to like hang around afterwards and chat and talk, and they're laughing because she's telling about Cheer Huntsberger, like she's finally revealing what she did.
I know.
And she says,
So
I
good.
just wish I would have remembered to call her a cocktail waitress. And she finds that hilarious. And I just like, that's really what it is. But yeah, after that, it kind of, the drama subsides.
Yeah.
And it's not really there anymore. The most drama is when they have spaghetti and meatballs in Driving Miss Gilmore. And they like apparently like the two of them start fighting whenever they have spaghetti and meatballs. They're like banned from it. But the conversation that they're having is talking about how she looked better with like blonde hair versus like brown hair, because like blonde just like all blends in a haze of beige. And like I like, that's one of those lines that like has lived with me like my whole life, that I like quote all the time. But I think they're talking about Ashley Simpson.
I believe they are. We asked that question. Didn't we pose that question to each other about Ashley, who they were talking about? And
I forget.
It was
but
Ashley Simpson.
But like they never say the name, but like they're like arguing about it and like gesturing meatballs at each other. And I love that. But yeah, there's no more real drama after that.
Yeah, I know. But before that, one of my favorites that I put down is the episode where Emily brings the Reverend
to give Rory the sex talk.
I am obsessed. I think that the way that she speaks to the Reverend is so funny. Like, that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being here today. It's giving that.
Perfect ref.
Yeah.
But then I love when she tells Lorelai about it, and she was like, the full gambit was run for me in terms of like the sex talk. She's like, I had a priest, I had whatever, but like she was like, you lived there for what, like a couple of months? She was like, I was there for 16 years.
Yeah. No, I love it. I think it's so well done. So
Yeah.
that was up there for me on my faves.
Yeah. Another top one was Partings, just because I had to.
Partings is so good. It's a great Friday night dinner. Love the guest.
The guest, one of my top guests.
Linny, for those in the know.
Yeah.
And I just think that the conflict, I just love that Emily brings Linny in to be like a double date, or not a double date, because no, I guess with Emily and Richard, but to be a date for Christopher. Who are they doubling with? There's only one option. But I love that Linny actually ends up being there for Lorelai, not for Chris. And
Chris a therapist.
Yeah. And then, of course, what I don't love is that Chris ends up being there for Lorelai later in the evening in more ways than one.
True.
And but I love it. I think that the I don't want to call it the conflict, because like it's less about is that the episode where Emily says, so how are we?
Yeah.
So
she
like
comes in.
Yeah, I feel like at that point, like you said, the conflict has kind of dissipated. So it's not that there's conflict. I just think it's hilarious that she brought someone in to try and set up with Christopher. And Christopher's like,
Who was a therapist.
who was a therapist, exactly.
Which is what Chris needs.
And I just love that instead of that happening, it ends up being flipped around, and Lorelai ends up really getting some sage advice from this woman.
Her mom sets her up with a therapist, which is interesting.
Yeah,
but
and
this is
ironic.
also the episode where Rory kind of stops by for a second before the London party, and the astronomy building is revealed.
Oh, you're totally right.
And Rory's like, are those letters to scale?
I forgot about that. I totally forgot about that. That's so funny.
Because the botched LASIK surgery.
Yes.
But that is the one where when Lorelai walks in, Emily's like, how are we? Because the episode before was when she was going to buy them the house. And she's like, I don't think we're getting married. And so there's like this bonding moment between the two of them that like all ends poorly.
I know.
But not between the two of them.
Yeah.
Oddly enough.
Yeah. No,
So do we classify that as a good Friday night dinner? Because
I think
no
so.
one
I think it's but I think it's a great Friday night dinner.
Yeah,
I love it. It's kind of the first one that Chris is at that doesn't end in an explosion.
That is true.
Because the three that he was at, I mean, I could be wrong. I don't believe he shows up to any others, but the three that he did attend, Christopher Returns, it was seasons 1, 2, and 3. Christopher Returns, it should have been Lorelai, and Haunted Leg, are all accompanied by a blow up from someone.
Yeah.
You know?
And if we want to call Wedding Bell Blues a Friday night dinner-esque, also a blow up.
Correct. But
he just loves
this
to
is
blow
kind of
shit
the
up.
only one that he shows up at that doesn't end with that level of drama and explosion, you know?
Interesting.
And it's because Emily has ironically finally accepted that the two of them are not going to be together. So she sets him up with somebody else and then they end up together.
Yeah. Who's like a licensed professional who would know how to be with him.
Yes, precisely. But what were your least faves of season 6?
I think my least fave is like, honestly, that like we really only had one real good one. I mean, we had some more, but, and like I even liked the one with Luke, which I don't think is a Friday night dinner, but I kind of like classify it as one because he's there. But I think it's just that like in the first half of the season, like there's no Lorelai, there's really no Friday night dinner.
Yeah.
It's so light on Friday night dinner that I couldn't really pick like a least favorite. Did you have one?
No, I couldn't pick one because I don't know. I agree with you. I think that like the whole trajectory of the season is it starts out with Lorelai not really being there, and it's really just Rory and Emily and Richard and there's no real Friday night dinner.
Yeah,
So
there's no
you can't really
reason to.
qualify anything as a Friday night dinner. Then by the time they reconcile and they all come together and Friday night's all right for fighting, like that's the apex, right?
Amazing. Yeah. And then I even like the next one where they're like all trying to be like friends.
Yeah.
And then we've got meatballs, but then
But then it
got
kind of like
Luke.
fades away.
Yeah.
And so all those other ones I enjoy because we didn't really get a lot of Friday night dinner in season 6. So
Yeah.
it kind of, I don't know, it doesn't really lend to a lot of least faves. It just like
No.
lends to us highlighting the ones that actually did exist because they were so
Yeah.
few and far between. Yeah. So I didn't really have anything.
Maybe like the only one is maybe if we can classify the Luke one because Lorelai is lying about June 3rd still and like hasn't told her parents, but they're so supportive of the two of them being together.
Yeah.
And they're like, and April will be part of our lives and just kind of like accepting all of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So like even that, like the only thing is when they walk outside and they're like, what was June 3rd?
Yeah,
She's
totally.
like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. But even that doesn't feel like enough to kind of throw it down into the least fave. It just kind
Yeah.
of like rests there by default.
Yeah. We can call it that.
Yeah. But anyway, moving on to season 7, I'm going to be real with you. I don't really remember a lot of Friday night dinners from season 7. I never watched this season. It's one that I
And
constantly
I'm not
skip.
watching it until we get there in 2025.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yikes.
Yeah. But
So I'm
Yeah,
curious
like-
to hear what yours were because I don't have anything.
a
Truly.
favorite is I'm a Kayak, Hear Me Roar
Mm-hmm.
when Richard is just out of the hospital
Mm-hmm.
and Emily is trying to make it very Richard friendly and she makes mocktails
Mm.
and they have a Roy Rogers and Shirley Temples, which I love a Roy Rogers. That's what it's called, right? Roy Rogers?
Yeah, I think so.
If that's wrong, I don't know what it's actually called. But then she's like serving fish and he's angry and like that maid who is just like absolutely not doing the job that she signed.
Oh my
no, she's not
God,
a
I
maid, she's a
know.
nurse.
Yes, the
And she's like
nurse.
not doing the job that she signed up to do and she's like so mad at Emily, which like I would be too. And she's just going up and down the stairs because Richard finally comes down and he's angry. I really like that one because
Yeah.
it's just like because Emily is trying so hard to make
Yeah.
this like a good time for him.
Totally.
So I put that one. But I can't think of a lot of least faves other than like the Chris ones because I don't watch it enough to like really remember them. But I just do remember not liking those episodes where he's in them. But I do like, I guess to end on like a positive in the series, I like when Rory finds out that she's going to be a reporter on Barack Obama's campaign.
Parade tour.
Parade tour. His
Campaign
campaign
trail.
trail.
Yeah.
When did I say that? That was quite
Oh
some
my
time
God,
ago.
so funny.
But I could remember the word for campaign trail. But like that one also kind of feels like I got into Yale. Like it kind of feels like the same vibe.
Yeah.
And it's just like she's like, I'm really gonna be a reporter. I'm gonna have like credentials. So that's really exciting. I really like
Totally.
that one.
Yeah.
So I'll include that. But
Okay.
yeah, I think when it comes to us ranking season 7, we don't have a lot of thoughts and feels because we don't watch it that much.
Yeah.
But we will have a lot of thoughts and feels when we get there.
We will, and I'm intrigued to see if it shifts my perspective on it.
Yeah.
At all.
Because a lot of people ask us to do like what if season 7, like fan fiction for season 7. But like I really want to hold like because I never watch it. I watch some of like the Logan episodes. Like I'll watch I'd Rather Be in Philadelphia and The Great Stink.
course,
And like
yeah.
those like important ones.
But I think
Introducing Lorelei Planetarium.
Of course. Like I've seen them. I've seen them multiple times, just not as
Yeah.
nearly as much as I've watched, what I consider to be
Everything
the core
else.
series.
Yeah. The non-fan fiction series.
Yeah, but I think that with season 7, I think until we get there, we won't be able to do like quote unquote fan fiction for it. I think it'll be a
Yeah.
lot easier to build that as we're moving through the season,
And maybe when we get there, we can like come back to like these moments that we like didn't like quote unquote rank because we didn't have like the knowledge for it, which is like
Yeah.
not true because we do know what happens in that season.
Totally.
We just don't watch enough. So maybe we'll revisit and talk about like our least faves.
Yeah,
which I feel
for
like there will
sure.
be a lot because that is a least fave season.
Yeah, definitely. And then, of course, in A Year in the Life, I feel like an honorable mention is just the dinner
Yeah.
that they have where, like, Luke is there and Kirk comes over.
Kurt comes over and like isn't he like not allowed to sit down for a second because like Richard's chair is like left open, and so, or maybe is
That
it
was
Luke
Luke.
that doesn't, so he
Yeah.
like eats standing up.
Yeah. And Emily's like, please sit down.
Yeah, but not there.
But not there.
Yeah. I do love
But
that Kirk is there and that he goes outside and plays soccer with what's the maid's name?
Berta.
Berta.
With Berta's kids.
Yeah.
Or who Emily thinks is Berta's kids.
Berta's kids. Yeah. And he's like, can I go outside and play?
Yeah, I love it.
So Kirk of
It's
him.
fun. Yes. And on that note, one of my questions for you is, we decided that we wanted to talk about, our favorite guest, but Kirk is a person who we didn't see at Friday Night Dinner until the revival, of course, because he never really had a reason to be there. But is there anybody else that you wish would have come to Friday Night Dinner who never did?
Oh, no one is coming to mind immediately, but maybe if you tell me yours, it'll jog something in my brain.
Mine is 1000% Babette and Maury. Can you imagine Babette and Maury at Friday Night Dinner with Richard and
The
Emily?
double date. Like replace Chris and Lenny, for those in the know, with Babette and Maury. And it's Lorelai sitting across the table.
I just imagine the two of them sitting there and Babette being like, this chicken is killer. Like, just...
And then Maury says something like, it is killer.
It is killer. It's a rad chicken, man. Like, all I can think of is like, is them talking about the clams in season 1. Oh, we had a coupon. Like, I think like
Your Babette and your Tom are like very much in the same like register.
yeah, 1000%.
No, but she would be commenting on the house and like everything that's going on.
Absolutely.
Maybe even like Babette and Patty, like the two of them.
Yeah, I was thinking Babette and
together.
Patty, but like Babette and Maury. I just love the way that they are juxtaposed against each other because Maury is so chill and Babette is just so much in the best of ways. Like, oh, love her. No notes.
See, okay, she never actually comes for dinner, but I would love Paris to be at Friday Night Dinner because she comes to like, they have like the school project and they have that there. And like Emily's like so impressed the way like her and Richard are working together. But I'd like to see her at a Friday Night Dinner.
I would
maybe
too.
Accidentally.
Yeah.
Maybe like Rory was taking her home and like she got delayed and couldn't go. So she invited her over and Lorelai's like, what is going on? Why is Paris here? I would love that.
Or she like barges in to give Rory something that she absolutely does not need, but Paris feels like she needs
Paris
it.
style.
Yes, in true Paris fashion. That would also be very funny. But that's a great Friday Night Dinner guest that I would have loved to see.
Yeah.
But speaking of, who of the people who did show up were amongst your favorite guests at Friday Night Dinner?
I feel like my guests are like strange selections because like anytime Gran is in town, I just know it's going to be dramatic. I know something's going to go down. I know Emily's going to have a strong reaction. So like Gran is kind of like broad sweeping. I really love Lenny.
Of course.
Like
Jan from The
Carolyn.
Office was a crowd favorite when we asked this question on Instagram.
What a good choice. I love her. I want to say Jess, but no, because like I waffled on that being like a least favorite episode just because it's uncomfy.
It is
And
uncomfy.
So I kind of like put that in the 3 least favorites, but there were so many Friday Night Dinners then that it was like kind of hard to like distinguish between them.
Totally. Yeah.
But
no, he is a fun guest to have. I mean, he definitely stirs up the drama.
Fun guest. I guess like that's what we're looking for, like a spoon guest to stir up the drama that's already there.
A professional KitchenAid.
Stir it up
Just
real good.
Stirring up that drama. Yeah, for
But
sure.
I would say like Gran, Lenny, and I'd put Jess on that list.
Okay, I love that for you.
What about you?
Chase Bradford. And that's it. That's the list.
Shall we?
Shall we? I just
He's the
love
whole
it.
list.
He's the entire list. I didn't know we were doing 3. I just picked 1.
Well, I just went through my like, because like Gran feels like just like broad sweeping. She comes so many
Gran
times.
is a great guest. I mean, like, I'll add
a
to your
dinner
list
regular.
rather than, just have my
Yeah.
own. I think Gran is a great Friday Night Dinner guest because I fucking love this. I should have talked about this. We kind of touched on it, but in season 1, when she shows up and Lorelai goes downstairs with Emily to go get those things out of storage, and she's like, "Stop talking to the dogs." I love that so much. You're right. I
just love when it
Gran is an
brings out
amazing
Emily.
Friday Night Dinner guest.
Because it like makes Lorelai and Emily like pals, like
It does.
teammates.
It totally
And I just
does.
love the effect that she has on them. Like she, like what a bitch.
Oh
Bad
my God.
bitch.
Yeah, bad bitch.
But like what a bitch.
Truly. Truly. The way she treats Emily is, ugh. But
That's just regular.
just hilarious.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, of course. I mean, Jan from The Office, Linny for those in the know. Like,
Yeah.
so great. I do love that episode. I love that conflict. I think that it brings a new energy into Friday Night Dinner that we're not used to without it bringing drama, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Because I love when they go into the bathroom and she's like, I didn't know that you didn't like want to be with her. And
Yeah.
He's like, I'll get in the middle.
Yeah.
And then like Emily like cancels Lorelai talking.
yeah, she's
at
like, you're
that point.
done.
Yeah.
Stop speaking.
Yeah.
Totally. But also, speaking of, and this is another kind of impromptu question for you, we basically get a boyfriend from each of the girlies at a Friday Night Dinner of Rory's with Sadie, Dean showing up, Swan Song when Jess shows up, and How Many Crow Pogs to Cape Cod. What was your favorite?
In a strange turn of events, it's the Dean one.
It's the Dean one, right?
Whoa.
I know.
Big
me too.
moment on Gilmore to say. Breaking news.
Breaking
Dean's
news.
the favorite.
Dean is the favorite in this situation.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was.
How do we feel about that?
I mean, I did mention this earlier in the episode. It was one of my least favorite. Like, it's uncomfortable to watch. But the episode itself and like everything that happens is so good. Yeah. I didn't love the Jess one at all. And I really didn't love the Logan one. Like, it goes sequentially for me. That's kind of the order in which I like to dislike them. Dean's is at the top, then it's Jess, then it's Logan.
Yeah, because that one's just so uncomfortable. The reason I would say like the Jess one maybe like within the narrative lower is because of like the fight that happens in the study.
Yeah, I don't
It's
like
just
that either. Ugh.
It's just so awkward, and like Jess makes like no effort to make this any better.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe like the thing that Logan does with like stealing the sewing box, isn't that what he steals? And then like replaces it with a lighter. Like I don't like that, but it's like he's on the other end making a strong effort for the grandparents, but not for Lorelai. So like I don't know. Jess and Logan's are
they're
kind of
like, neck and neck. You're totally right.
For different reasons. But Dean wins out.
Dean does win out. I mean,
Weird.
when you're comparing them up against Jess and Logan's episodes, it's not really a win.
It's not really a win.
But of the, you know, let's say that Christopher Returns is the Chris episode. And then Max comes over, not for a Friday Night Dinner, but he does come over in
so good,
Hammers
though.
and Veils. Luke comes over in You've Been Gilmored, right? That's his first.
And
or I'm
in
sorry.
You Jump, I Jump Jack.
You Jump,
yeah.
Right. But You Jump, I Jump Jack was the first time they were together.
Yeah,
That's when
with
she's
just
insulting
Emily.
him. Yes.
Yes.
And
Would
then.
you like another beer, Luke?
Would you like another beer? And then Jason, of course, in season 4.
Right.
I would probably argue it's not the cheeseburger episode, but it is Tick, 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 Boom.
Yeah.
Of those, which is your favorite? That one's a little hard.
It's hard because I really, really love the Jason episode.
Yeah.
I love what happens in the Chris episode, but it's like, my dude, like, you guys, your daughter and your mom are talking in the kitchen and you guys are hooking up on the balcony? Like,
Yeah,
what
I know.
was going through his mind?
I know.
So I think I'd say You've Been Gilmore just because of like,
Or You Jump, I Jump Jack.
I wouldn't say that because that one's like uncomfortable. Like I would say,
But
that
I think that's probably the dinner. Right?
yeah.
It's the
'Cause, like,
first one.
And You've Been Gilmore, that's like the support.
The acceptance.
One.
Yeah.
That's the good one. And like it's like that's not a good Friday night dinner. That's not what we Friday night dinner for. We
Yeah.
Friday night dinner for You Jump, I Jump Jack. But it's kind of more subtle, which is interesting. But like oddly, I think I'm gonna go with Tick, 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 Boom. I think I'm gonna go with the Jason one because of just like everything that unfolds and what's revealed. Chris Returns, like that's drama. Peak drama. He was bound for Princeton.
That's
We
I think
love
why
to
I'm
say
going
that.
to, and you know I love it. That's why I think I'm going to pick that one. But
Okay.
I think that one and Tick, 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 Boom are neck and neck.
Yeah, it's not positive. None of these are positive dinners.
No.
But it's just I think that the Luke ones are too subtle and too supportive.
Totally.
It's too positive.
Yeah. No, I fully agree with you. Same answer on that one.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to know because as we were chatting about it, I was like, oh, right. We never really talked about the boyfriend episodes, which we love to talk about the boyfriends here. And so I was just curious where you stood on that.
Because Jason was a secret boyfriend, but I'd still go with that one.
Still that one. Yeah. So next, I would love to know what your favorite meal served was.
I want to say spaghetti and meatballs just because of the effect that it has on
I know
them.
it's so funny.
It's such a big deal, but like I just love a good pot roast. Like,
Yeah, I also love a good pot roast.
it just feels like maybe the meal that I would want to eat.
Yeah.
They serve it with rolls. Like, it just feels like comfy, cozy. Like, that's what I would want to go eat at the Gilmores.
Totally.
Maybe the homemade Twinkies, but that's dessert.
I know. And they
up.
never got to eat the homemade Twinkies.
I know.
But I also put like a little note that I wanted to talk about dessert as well.
Yeah.
Because I think that meal and dessert are two very different things. The homemade Twinkies
Yes.
did make it on there. But before we get into that, my favorite meal served, I think I'm torn between the Johnny Machete because I just love how tickled Richard was over
Yeah.
it. But I also love the frozen pizza that they eat in Love and War and Snow.
Yeah.
Because it's
See, I
so
went for more of-
off-brand.
It is so off-brand because they also have it in season 5 with
Yeah.
Rory and Richard. But I think I went with the one that I would most want to eat.
Yeah, totally.
I love any time like Lorelai doesn't want to know what it is.
I know.
That's also very good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just like you got to go with the pot roast.
Yeah. And would you say that the homemade Twinkies are up there on your list of desserts?
Up there, but I think the fondue.
I put the fondue at Friday Night's
Yeah.
All Right for Fighting. After Friday Night's All Right for
Yeah.
Fighting. Yeah.
But the other one that I have to like give an honorable mention for is pudding.
That's the other one I put. Pudding. Those are my
Of
three.
course. You just like it's because of the sentiment of pudding.
Of course.
And the sentiment of homemade Twinkies.
Well, duh. Yeah.
But
Yeah. I put the
it's
pudding,
the
the homemade
fondue.
Twinkies, and the chocolate fondue after Friday Night's All Right
I love
for
that.
Fighting.
I
Yeah.
love when we're on the same page.
I love it. So to kind of wrap all of this up, I would love to know, we talked about a lot of drama today. What is your favorite drama? Favorite Friday night dinner drama?
It is so hard to pick because there are so many good ones. Because like my like first instinct is to say Friday Night's All Right for Fighting.
Of course, because it's filled with so much conflict. It's basically
There's so
unpacking
much
all of
going
it,
on.
right? Yeah.
Okay, so the Friday night dinner that you said in season 5 that they don't actually eat dinner at, where Emily and Richard reveal to her that they will not be following her plan and that they will instead be supporting Rory and dropping out of Yale, is my favorite drama simply because I just love that scene because you said it was one of your least favorite, but like that is just like one of my favorite moments. Like the Rory and Lorelai looking through the window. We love a looking through the window moment.
Totally.
But it's just like something about that. I mean, like it's hard to classify it as a dinner. The intention was dinner, but like the drama that like that's when they're eating drama for dinner. Like that's really, and I love that. Like there's so many other ones that I could say, like all of the ones that we've gone through. But I guess
Yeah.
one that I didn't mention as like a favorite, least favorite, that was one that you brought up. That
yeah.
I just love the drama.
That's your
of
favorite
that.
drama.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine is Haunted Leg.
But like that one's so good too. Like,
It's perfect.
I think that the reason that it's hard to pick, like we both picked one relatively easily,
Yeah.
but very difficultly, because like the core of Friday night dinner is like drama.
Oh,
that,
yeah.
that was not what we like. I guess when we described the setup at the beginning of this episode was, they're paying for Rory's school, so you're gonna come have dinner with us every week, and it's gonna be fine. But like, what constitutes a Friday night dinner is how dramatic it is.
Correct.
So it's hard to pick, but like, I just love feeling bad with the Gilmores.
Me too. Me too. But I love this because we have been wanting to do a Friday night dinner episode for a while. Last year, our Thanksgiving episode was talking about comfort food. And we had talked about like next up on our list, we want to do a Friday night dinner episode. And here we are a year later celebrating.
Yeah, it's a perfect to celebrate Thanksgiving with Friday night dinner drama. Just
know.
like Thursday night dinner drama is Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I hope you don't have any drama. I hope you don't have any fights because eventually I do want to do best fights.
Oh, yeah. We've been talking about doing that for a while.
Yeah. Because there's some good fights
some
that
good
take
fights.
place outside of Friday night dinner, but like the fights that take place at Friday night dinner, classic, top tier.
Classique.
But I hope there's no fights at your Thanksgiving. Like, I hope that your Thanksgiving is chill.
Yeah. Absolutely. And just filled with really yummy food. Only the best.
And whether you don't celebrate Thanksgiving because you are international listener, or you don't celebrate Thanksgiving living in America, which is totally fair, I still hope you have a good Thursday.
I hope you have a great Thursday. And we'll be back next week for Gilmore to Consider.
Ooh, I'm really excited for next week's Gilmore to Consider.
I know.
We
are
have
very
a lot
excited.
of fun stuff to talk about.
We do.
Relating to Amy's feelings about Gilmore Girls.
And we'll have more to say on that in the next episode.